Hello and welcome to this lesson on Adobe Photoshop by Eduonics. In this lesson we're going to be going over channels and all the neat things you can do with them. Now, just on first glance, and you can get to it by going to Window and then Channels, the Channels palette looks, or panel looks a lot like the Layers panel in the sense that there's an icon and there's some words next to it. Now yours will be black and white, and I'll switch back to that, but there's a preference. If you go to Edit Preferences Interface on Windows or Photoshop Preferences Interface on a Mac, and this option right here, Show Channels in Color, and you can see. So what a channel is just a grayscale image information. Now you have default channels for whatever color mode you're in. CMYK in this case. If I were to change to RGB, I would have red, green, blue. Now let's keep it on this for the time being. You can show any combination of these. If you show all of them, you're showing full color. And where this comes in handy is in this image of a grasshopper, for example. I can isolate the green. If I control click this, just like I mentioned, since it operates like a layer, you can do things like pasting just the green that I copied into an actual layer. Since the grasshopper's green, so by selecting the green layer and inverting it, just to show you what I have selected, I have all green. I can select my image now in the layers panel. And it enables me to do a lot of things, like create some dramatic lighting and stuff. That's what I use it for. As you can see, just a few more of these. You can get some really cool looks. So it's important to note that when you're doing a color separation in RGB, where it's lightest, that's where the most color is. As you can see, right here would be the green and the yellow area. Now if I switch this to CMYK, because it's the difference between additive and subtractive color, it'll be just the opposite. So wherever it's lightest, that's where the least amount of color is. So basically wherever it's darkest is where the color is. And control clicking any one of these, you'll get the selection. So in terms of the printer, the person who would be printing this, these color channels are the different components of inks that they would use. It's called process color to get any one of these colors because we're mixing cyan, magenta, and yellow and black, and these would be the actual inks. It's important to note that RGB is the opposite of these, and that's why the channels for yellow, for instance, highlights just that part, because they're actually adding this pigment. So when they're printing, it's like it'll separate your image. Let's use this as an example. Instead of printing that all at once, it'll just take the 4 inks it'll print a layer that looks like this first, then a layer that looks like this, and this is what they would look like combined. And you notice that a lot of photographs, when they fade away, tend to lose one or the other inks. Something like sun damage. So they would print cyan, then so it looked like that, then the magenta ink, then the yellow ink, then the black ink, because this is typically a very light color process, and it takes black to get the shadows and values. And that's how you come out with the CMYK. In RGB color, on the other hand, you have pixels in your screen, and they are lighting up. And when all of them light up together, it creates white. So if you look down here at the white and the margins, and I'm just showing one color, it's perfectly that color. Red and green makes yellow in RGB. Green and blue makes cyan. I think there's a different word for that actually, but and then magenta. So when we have all of the pixels firing in each of these color groups in their own little independent ways, we get our image. So it works the opposite way, RGB versus CMYK. Now getting into another version of channels, which is just as useful. If you have ever made a layer mask and you have the channels open, you'll notice it creates an alpha channel right here. So in a layer mask I can only do, and if you notice, I'll do red, but it'll make it gray because I'm in alpha. I can only do black and white and everything in between. And you notice when you paint, it turns red. Well, that's creating a selection here, and unbeknownst to a lot of people that use this, when you do an alpha channel or a quick mask, you create an alpha channel in the channels palette. So it's the same kind of as saving your selection. And as you can see, if I just press Q to get out of quick mask mode, it gets rid of the alpha channel. But if I just hide the alpha channel, so with a selection also, I can create a channel, just basically saving my selection. We're going to create a new channel, save selection as a channel. Actually, that'll give me my alpha right there. So basically, I could go through and do that for all of the individual colors. But that's the alpha channel property there. And so it's a good way of going back and keeping your selections. And the last one is spot colors. If I wanted a border down here or something, just a bar of color, and I want it to be really specific, spot colors can't be created perfectly with process or screen color blending, addition or subtraction, which means that red, green, and blue together aren't quite enough to create the very specific Pantone 299C. So let's switch to CMYK again, just for fun, and I'm going to show you the last kind of channel, which is a spot channel, like I was just about to. What we're going to do is go up to New Spot Channel, up in the panel options, and as you can see it creates a specific one. This is my custom name. What you do here is you click on this ink color. This is going to be the spot color, but instead of picking a process color, you'll go into color libraries, and you can select your color library and select your process color. And so and it automatically creates the names, so that when the printer is going through this, he'll lay down the process colors, and then he'll load the special ink in, and he'll just have this selected. And that'll tell it to print there. So those are all the different kinds of channels and the things you can do with them. And you can use channels to create a lot of different effects. Just using my magic wand. But you can intensify channels with hue and saturation, add-ons, or adjustment layers. And in the end you can use it to make masks. So try practicing with different masks. As you can see, it's pretty useful. It allows things to show up from behind it. That's kind of the concept behind green screen. So practice mixing the different channels and selections with enhanced adjustment layers and making masks. And you can create a lot of cool effects. That's essentially all channels is just a storage space for a selection. So try those 3 different kinds and practice, practice, practice.